Hey friend, in this video, I'm gonna be talking about the 10 beginner watercolor tips that will change everything. This is gonna help you level up your watercolor game. If you're stuck or you're wondering why hard lines are appearing on your paper or why the pigment isn't mixing well, whatever it is, those questions are gonna be answered in this video. So if you're ready, let's talk about it. So we're gonna start with 5 tips for what to do and then 5 tips for what to avoid or what not to do. So my first tip is work with good supplies. This doesn't mean that you have to break the bank and get the most expensivest watercolor supplies out there. You can cut corners, you can find art supplies that are less expensive. However, when you're working with good supplies, especially good paper, it makes a huge difference. I get comments all the time on YouTube, on my Instagram, and my DMs asking, why are my colors doing this? Why aren't they blending well? Or why is the pigment separating the grain? And all of that can be solved with really good paper. I see all the time people are buying Canson watercolor paper or maybe working on the back sheet of their paper. And while that is totally fine, and it's up to you as an individual artist to decide what you can do with your budget, and if you really enjoy the results on Canson watercolor paper or using the back of some of your watercolor paper, you do you. However, some of the cheaper watercolor papers, like Canson watercolor paper, for example, while they are more friendly on your budget and they're fine to practice on, they are not going to give you the same results as a good quality 100% cotton paper. So Canson watercolor paper, for example, is I think 70% cellulose and the rest cotton. Saunders, Waterford, St. Cuthbert's Mill, Fabriano, Arche, etc. Those higher quality papers are going to be 100% cotton paper. So that's something to really look for when you're purchasing paper, because if you're not enjoying the results when you're practicing, you're going to get disappointed. You're not going to enjoy the process as much. And so if you really want to enjoy your practice, I highly recommend investing in some good supplies. This goes for paint and paper as well. But if I were to choose one area or one supply to focus on really spending the money on, it would be paper. Unfortunately, I know that's the one thing that you throw in the trash if you don't like something or if you're practicing. However, if you are trying to save some money, use the back side of the paper. It's not going to have the same results. However, that will help you kind of not throw away as much paper and whatever. Second tip is to do something creative every single day. So I have this phrase that I've been saying for years and years. I have it in my books. I have it on my website, is create something every day, even if it sucks. So this can be as simple as just a little tiny doodle in your journal or on a little post-it note. Even that simple act of creativity is rewiring your brain, but it's also training your muscle memory for things like shapes and squiggles and lines that you will incorporate, whether you hold a paintbrush, oil pastels, a sketching pencil, or whatever. So do something creative every single day, even if it's a small doodle. If you are struggling for time or for space, maybe you paint on your kitchen table or you just don't have a lot of space to paint, put all of your supplies in a little tray or some sort of bucket. So if you want to store it away after you're done, you can just pull it back up. That's going to save you a lot of time so that you can access and create something every single day, if that means painting. The third tip kind of goes along with the second one, and that is to stay consistent. So doing something creative every single day, staying consistent and implementing a practice sketch that you can keep up with. So this means not trying to do a tutorial, sketching tutorial, painting tutorial, whatever it is, that is so far beyond your skill level, but doing something that's just an edge above or a couple levels above your skill level. That's going to keep things interesting. That's going to also activate your adrenaline and make you want to figure that thing out, kind of problem solve and really do well in that tutorial, following that tutorial, or if it's not a tutorial, you're looking at a reference photo or whatever it is. But if it's too far ahead of your skill level, it's going to cause anxiety and frustration, and it's going to make you give up on the practice a lot sooner. So do something every day that you can stay consistent, gradually increasing your skill level, whether that's following a tutorial or finding something online that you want to paint, or maybe something outside, or go out in nature and doodle something. Okay, fourth tip. I am guilty of this myself, and I see this also throughout the artist community, is we kind of get pigeonholed. Is that a word? Pigeonholed. In this case, would it make sense? We get stuck in a certain style or even supplies that we really like to use. I have for one, just recently in the past couple of years, been exploring with different mediums like gouache, now colored pencil and oil pastel, and loving my time. One of the greatest ways, it might sound counterintuitive, but one of the greatest ways to get that spark back with watercolor is to go out and do something else in a different medium. So that can be sketching, oil pastels, oil, acrylic, gouache, whatever you name it. Gouache is very similar to watercolor, so that's where I like to start if I'm feeling like I'm in a creative rut with watercolor and I need to just like do something different. It's more pastel, more velvety, more creamy, and then just keep exploring. Exploration is the easiest way to just get a jolt of inspiration and fun and spark back into your watercolor journey. So this 5th tip of what to do doesn't really focus on what to do really, but it's to come back to flow state. Flow state is that place where effort is effortless. If you've done any research on flow state, then you've heard about this place, or maybe you've experienced it yourself. Everyone has tapped into flow state at least once every single day. You can even tap into flow state when you're doing the dishes or you're driving the car and you lose track of where you are on the road, but somehow you've made it to your exit. Flow state is this beautiful place where artists, athletes, whatever, are able to create their optimal work, their best work, without really thinking about it. Time just kind of goes away and you're just enjoying the process and not getting overwhelmed or too nitpicky about what is happening with what you're doing, whether you're being creative, you're doing the dishes, or you're driving your car. So flow state is this place that I have researched for years. I created this course called The Art Within that goes over the fundamentals of art, perspective, shape, sketching techniques, and way, way, way more. It's a huge in-depth art course that a lot of people who have taken the course have also gone to art school and said, I didn't even learn this stuff in art school. You covered things that we didn't learn in art school, and it's changing my life. So The Art Within is a beautiful online course, and it's gonna help walk you through how to achieve flow state, how to drop into flow state, how to train your brain through other modalities like meditation and doodles and exercises that I incorporate in my daily life as an artist to help train your brain to be familiar with flow state and to drop into it more easily so that you can create your best work as an artist. So check it out. It's at jennarainey.com jennarainey.com/the-art-within. I hope to see you in there. So those are the 5 tips of what to do for improving your watercolor skills. And then the 5 tips of what to avoid. Number 1, never use paper. No, I shouldn't say never. Never use paper that isn't 100% cotton. This is a very serious one, so I've said it kind of twice, but in opposites. But it's if every artist is different, so if you really enjoy painting on Canson watercolor paper or something that isn't 100% cotton, you do you. I'm not saying, I guess I did say never. Never say never, as Justin Bieber would say. However, your results, the blending on paper, the drying results, hard lines, etc., will be drastically different because of the absorption quality, the toothiness, obviously in cold press paper. If you're using hot press paper, there's not much toothiness because it's smooth. I prefer cold press. So anyway, first tip, don't use paper that isn't 100% cotton unless you want to, because never say never. Number 2, don't let frustration control the outcome. So this is again where, going back to what I said in the previous tips about doing something that isn't so far out of reach of your skill level, your current day skill level, is really key, because then if you're too far ahead or you're doing something that's too difficult for you, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of frustration, and you will most likely give up. However, you can come back to things, you can do things in stages, so there's something to be said about just pushing forward. But my second tip of what to avoid is to avoid letting the frustration control your outcome. So avoid letting the frustration control your outcome. Don't let the frustration. You can experience frustration. That's totally normal, especially if you're learning something new or you're challenging yourself in any way so that you can grow. But just don't let that frustration control the outcome. So let it flow through you like water, as Ram Dass would say. Number 3 of things to avoid, tips of things to avoid, don't stay in your lane. So like I said, have had the time of my life exploring new mediums, exploring new styles, And I'm doing it for research. I'm not doing it as a, hey, I paint like this style now and flip-flopping, because as a brand, it's pretty important to stay consistent and have a consistent look. However, there's nothing wrong with expanding, with growing and changing your style. So my encouragement to you, especially if you're kind of getting bored with where you're at in your watercolor skills, journey, whatever, don't stay in your lane. Try a new medium, try a new style. If you're used to painting loose landscapes, try something like loose florals or a different style of floral. Maybe you do a lot of contemporary, maybe try a really old botanical style, like 1920s botanical science vibes. So expand, don't stay in your lane. That is the best thing for just growing and changing and blossoming into a beautiful watercolorist. So my fourth tip of what to avoid would be to not skip sketching practice. Sketch your studies. Sketch what you want to paint. Do a sketch study of what you want to paint before you paint it. Unless it's something that you're extremely familiar with and it's more abstract or loose, then fine, have at it. But even for those types of paintings, I really like to explore different angles, different compositions, layouts, etc. with a pencil first in my journal or in a sketching pad first, because then I can see, oh, if I arrange the flowers this way, it's gonna leave more white space over here, or I can put my big flowers in this arrangement, whatever. So it's really, really helpful to do a sketch study of anything that you're painting first, and then you'll have a lot more confidence, a lot more vision of what you want something to look like when you pick up your paintbrush and start painting it. So highly recommend to not skip the sketch study portion. Then my fifth and final tip of what to avoid, so 10 total now of tips to help grow your watercolor life, is to not just follow tutorials online. Put the screens away, the phones, the computers, turn them off, go night-night, computers, and use the world around you as research, as inspiration, or your imagination as research and inspiration. If something like imagination is something that's really difficult for you to tap into, start free writing. I'm sure you've heard of free writing before. I call it flow writing in my course, The Art Within, but free writing is the best place to start, just letting your visuals and imagination skills just become active. The more you do it every day, just do 5 minutes of free writing. You're not thinking about what you're gonna write down, you're just writing down whatever comes to mind, whatever flows through your brain for a second, and you're putting it down. You're not judging what you're writing, it's just coming through you. Free writing is one of the best ways to activate and train your imagination skills. So use your imagination, or go for a nature walk and experience the world around you and the beauty around you. Go for a nature walk, use that imagination, and if you're struggling with using an outside source like that and not following a tutorial, then just start small. Maybe you find a tiny little flower on your nature walk that you can sketch or paint that one flower, or a rock, or a tree, a smaller little preview of a landscape instead of an expansive view or a wider view of a landscape, and then work your way up to a bigger floral piece or a bigger landscape, a wider perspective on a landscape. So those are my 10 beginner watercolor tips that will change everything. Don't forget them. Come back to this video. Make sure you check out The Art Within. It's a beautiful, amazing course that's going to help you expand and grow at any level. If you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, there's something for everyone. As always, thank you so much for watching these videos, for liking and subscribing to this channel. It means the world to me. If you need a little bit more getting started material on this YouTube channel, we have the Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. It's basically a 2-hour free deep dive workshop on all things watercolor. So make sure you check that out. And all the other videos that we have on this YouTube channel, we've been, at the time of recording this, doing this for over 2 years, almost 3 years, I think. And so we have hundreds of videos for you that are gonna help you expand and grow as a watercolor artist, but not just watercolor, but art in general. So I thank you for your time, for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.